The wrench slipped from Dae-hyun's greasy fingers and clanged against the metal floor. He cursed under his breath and wiped the sweat from his forehead. The air in the warehouse was thick and hot, even though the sun had set hours ago. He had been working on this old cargo hauler for 3 days and it still refused to start properly. Dae-hyun was a mechanic, not a fancy one who worked in the clean shops in the center of Seonghwa City. No, he fixed the broken ships that nobody else wanted to touch, the ones that smelled like oil and rust, the ones that barely flew, but they paid his bills, and in this world that was all that mattered. The world had changed 20 years ago. That was when the aliens came. People called them the Confederation. They came from the stars with ships that made Earth's technology look like children's toys. There was a war, but it did not last long. Earth surrendered. After that, everything was different. The Confederation made new rules. They said humans were too emotional, too dangerous. They said feelings like love and anger and ambition caused wars and suffering, so they made those feelings illegal. Everyone had to take pills every day to keep their emotions flat and quiet. Those who refused went to prison or disappeared. Dae-hyun took his pills like everyone else. Or at least he pretended to. Sometimes he would hold the pill under his tongue and spit it out when nobody was looking. He knew it was dangerous, but he hated the way the pills made him feel. Like he was only half alive. Like he was a machine instead of a person. He picked up his wrench again and crawled deeper into the cargo hauler's engine. The ship had been abandoned near the restricted zone, the part of the city where nobody was allowed to go. The Confederation kept strange things there, things they did not want humans to see. Dae-hyun did not ask questions when someone paid him to haul the ship away and fix it. Credits were credits. As he worked, his hand brushed against something that should not be there. It was smooth and warm, not like metal at all. He pulled back quickly and shined his light into the dark space. There, wedged behind the fuel tanks, was something that made his heart stop. It looked like a cocoon made of silver and gold, about the size of a small car. Strange patterns swirled across its surface, glowing faintly in the darkness. Dae-hyun had never seen anything like it. His first thought was to call the authorities. His second thought was that calling the authorities would get him killed. He knew what this was. Or at least he knew the stories. Before the Confederation came, before the pills and the rules, people used to whisper about creatures called dragons. Not the dragons from old fairy tales, but something else. Living ships that bonded with humans. Beings of energy and technology that were older than any civilization in the galaxy. The Confederation had hunted them all. They said dragons were weapons, too dangerous to exist. They said any human who found one had to report it immediately. The penalty for hiding a dragon was death. But as Dae-hyun stared at the glowing cocoon, he felt something he had not felt in years. Curiosity. Wonder. Hope. He made a decision that would change everything. Instead of reporting it, he would hide it. He spent the next 4 hours carefully removing the cocoon from the cargo hauler. It was surprisingly light, almost weightless in his arms. He carried it to the back of his warehouse, to a storage room that nobody ever used. He covered it with old tarps and spare parts, making sure it could not be seen. That night, Dae-hyun could not sleep. He lay in his small apartment above the warehouse, staring at the ceiling. What had he done? If the Confederation found out, they would execute him. They might even execute everyone who had ever known him, just to be safe. But something inside him, something the pills could not quite kill, told him he had made the right choice. The next morning he went down to check on the cocoon. It looked exactly the same, still glowing softly in the darkness. He reached out carefully and touched it. The surface was warm like skin. The patterns swirled faster under his fingertips. For a moment he thought he heard something, not with his ears but inside his mind. A voice, distant and sleepy, asking a question he could not quite understand. He pulled his hand back quickly. His heart was racing. The thing inside the cocoon was alive, really alive. And somehow it had felt his touch. Dae-hyun knew then that his life would never be the same. He had found something the Confederation feared more than anything. He had found a dragon days past. Dae-hyun went about his normal work, fixing ships and engines, pretending nothing had changed. But every spare moment he spent in that storage room watching the cocoon, the glow was getting brighter. The patterns moved faster. Whatever was inside was waking up. He started having dreams. Strange dreams where he was flying through space faster than light with stars streaming past like rivers. In the dreams, he was not alone. There was someone with him. something with him, a presence that felt ancient and powerful and kind. On the seventh day, everything changed. Dae-hyun came down to the storage room as usual. But this time the cocoon was different. Cracks had appeared on its surface and light was spilling out from inside. Beautiful light like liquid gold. He watched, frozen in place as the cocoon began to open. What emerged was impossible to describe. It was not solid, not quite. It shifted between forms, sometimes looking like a great serpent made of light, sometimes like a bird with wings of fire, sometimes like nothing he had words for. But through all the changes, he could feel its attention focused on him. Curious, gentle, waiting. The voice came again, but this time it was clear. It spoke directly into his mind, bypassing his ears entirely. The voice was female, warm like summer rain. It asked a simple question in a language he had never learned but somehow understood perfectly. Why did you hide me? Why did you not give me to them? Dae-hyun's mouth was dry. He tried to speak, but no words came out. Finally, he managed to whisper, "Because they would have destroyed you. Because I think they lied to us about what you really are." The being of light came closer, and Dae-hyun felt warmth wash over him. Not heat, but something else. Something that made his chest ache with feelings he had almost forgotten. The voice spoke again. "You are correct. They did lie. My name is Hana. I am a dragon. And you, brave one who still knows how to feel, you have just become my partner. Together we are going to change everything." Dae-hyun stood very still as Hana circled around him. She moved like water, like smoke, like light itself. One moment she seemed solid enough to touch, the next she was transparent as glass. He wanted to run. Every instinct told him to get away from this impossible thing, but his feet would not move. "Do not be afraid," Hana said inside his mind. Her voice was gentle, but there was power behind it. Old power. "I will not hurt you. I could never hurt my partner." Partner? Dae-hyun finally found his voice. What does that mean? Hana settled into a form that looked almost human. A woman made of golden light with eyes like stars. She smiled at him and he felt warmth flood through his chest. "It means we are bonded now. The moment you touched my cocoon with true intention, with genuine care, the bond began to form. Now it is complete. I am yours and you are mine. We are two halves of one whole." Dae-hyun shook his head. This could not be real. Dragons were supposed to be weapons. That was what the Confederation said. That was why they were illegal. But Hana did not feel like a weapon. She felt like something else entirely. "They lied to you," Hana said softly. She moved closer and Dae-hyun could feel energy radiating from her like heat from a fire. "Everything the Confederation told your people about us was a lie. We are not weapons. We are companions, partners. We bond with those who have strong spirits, those who refuse to let their light be dimmed." "Then why did they hunt you?" Dae-hyun asked. "Why are they so afraid of you?" Hana's expression grew sad. "Because we make humans powerful. Because a human bonded with the dragon cannot be controlled, cannot be suppressed, cannot be made to forget who they truly are. The Confederation did not conquer Earth through strength. They conquered it through betrayal, through fear, through making your people believe they were weak." She raised one glowing hand and images began to appear in the air between them. Dae-hyun saw Earth as it had been before the invasion. Cities gleaming with technology that rivaled anything in the galaxy. Ships that could cross the stars. Humans working alongside dragons, exploring the universe together. It was beautiful. It was everything the Confederation said humans could never achieve. "This was your world," Hana said quietly. "This was what humanity was becoming. You were on the verge of joining the greater galactic community as equals, as leaders. The Confederation could not allow that. So they made a deal with certain humans. Humans who were afraid of change. Humans who wanted power for themselves. The images shifted. Now Dae-hyun saw the war. But it was not the war he had been taught about in school. The Confederation ships were not attacking. They were waiting. And then he saw human ships firing on other human ships. He saw cities burning not from alien weapons but from human ones. He saw betrayal on a scale he could barely comprehend. They made it look like a conquest, Hana continued. But it was a surrender. Your leaders gave up everything in exchange for personal power. They handed over Earth, and in return the Confederation let them rule over the ashes. And then they hunted us. They hunted every dragon they could find because as long as we existed, there was hope that humans might remember their true strength. Dae-hyun felt sick. Everything he knew was a lie. The entire history of the past 20 years was built on deception. But you survived, he said. How some of us went into hiding, into deep sleep, waiting for someone brave enough to wake us, waiting for someone like you. Hana's smile returned. You have no idea how special you are, Daehyun. In a world where everyone takes pills to kill their feelings, you chose to feel. In a world where everyone obeys, you chose to question. That is why I chose you. Before Daehyun could respond, he heard a sound that made his blood run cold. Sirens, enforcement vehicles approaching his warehouse. Someone must have detected the energy signature when Hana awakened. They were coming for him. We need to run, he said, his mind racing. We need to hide you before they get here. Hana shook her head. I cannot hide anymore. I'm awake now, fully awake. My energy will shine like a beacon to anyone with the right equipment. But do not worry. I will protect you. She began to change, growing larger, her light intensifying. Daehyun watched in awe as she transformed into something magnificent. A dragon made of pure energy, with wings that seemed to stretch forever and eyes that burned with ancient fire. But before she could do anything, the warehouse door exploded inward. Enforcement officers poured in, weapons raised. But they stopped when they saw Hana. Even hardened soldiers trained by the Confederation could not help but stare at something so beautiful and terrible. In that moment of hesitation, Daehyun heard a voice he had not heard in many years. Daehyun, is that really you? He turned and saw her. Jiwoo. She wore the uniform of an enforcement officer now, but he would have known her anywhere. They had grown up together, back before the pills, back when children were still allowed to play and laugh and be friends. Then the Confederation came and they were separated. He thought he would never see her again. Jiwoo, he whispered. What are you doing here? She lowered her weapon slowly, her eyes moving between him and Hana. I am the lead investigator for this district. We detected an illegal energy signature. I came to investigate. I did not know it was you. Her voice cracked slightly. I did not know you were involved in something like this. The other officers were starting to recover from their shock. One of them raised his weapon toward Hana. Jiwoo held up a hand. Wait, everyone lower your weapons. This situation requires careful assessment. Her subordinates looked confused but obeyed. Jiwoo stepped closer to Daehyun, her expression unreadable. You know what this is, she said quietly. You know what they will do to you if they find out you have been harboring a dragon. Why would you take such a risk? Daehyun met her eyes. He saw something there beneath the flat effect the pills were supposed to create. A flicker of the girl he used to know. The girl who used to ask questions nobody else dared to ask. Because everything they told us is a lie, he said. Because Hana showed me the truth. Because I remember what it felt like to be human and I refuse to forget. For a long moment, Jiwoo said nothing. Then she turned to her team. Stand down. This warehouse is empty. The energy signature was a false reading. We return to base and file a negative report. Do you understand? The officers looked at each other uncertainly. But ma'am, one of them began. We can clearly see that is an order, Jiwoo said firmly. Her hand moved to her sidearm. An order from your commanding officer. You will obey or you will be written up for insubordination. The officers filed out quickly, leaving Jiwoo alone with Daehyun and Hana. She turned back to him, and this time he clearly saw tears in her eyes. Real tears, impossible tears for someone who took the pills every day. I do not know why I just did that, she whispered. I do not know what is happening to me. But I remember you, Daehyun. I remember when we used to dream about the stars together, and I am tired of pretending I do not feel anything. Before Daehyun could respond, she was gone, vanishing into the night. Hana settled back into her human form, her expression thoughtful. Your friend is stronger than she knows. The pills may dull emotions, but they cannot kill them entirely, not in someone with a spirit as bright as hers. She will be important to what comes next. What comes next? Daehyun asked. He was exhausted, overwhelmed by everything that had happened. What happens now? Now we train, Hana said simply. Now we prepare, because the Confederation will not stop. They will come again, and next time, they will bring more than just local enforcement. We need to be ready. We need to be strong, and we need to find others like us. Others who remember how to fight. The abandoned factory was cold and dark. Daehyun followed the coordinates Hana had given him, stepping carefully through piles of rusted metal and broken machinery. 3 days had passed since Jiwoo let them go. 3 days of hiding, planning, and learning things about himself he never knew existed. Training with Hana was nothing like he expected. She did not teach him to fight with weapons or his fists. Instead, she taught him to fight with his mind. Every night they would connect, her consciousness merging with his. In those moments, he could feel everything she felt, see everything she saw, access knowledge that had been sealed away for thousands of years. He learned that dragons were not just beings of energy. They were repositories of memory, living libraries that stored the history of countless civilizations. When Hana bonded with him, she began unlocking parts of his brain that the Confederation had been suppressing with their pills. Parts that made humans special, parts that made them dangerous. Already he could think faster, react quicker. He could look at a broken machine and understand instantly how to fix it, as if he had been working on it for years. He could hear sounds that were too quiet for normal ears, see details in the darkness that should have been invisible. The bond was changing him, making him more than he was. But Hana said they needed more than just power. They needed allies. That was why he was here, meeting someone she claimed could help them. Someone from the resistance. Daehyun had not even known there was a resistance until Hana told him. Apparently not everyone had given up hope. Not everyone had forgotten how to fight. A sound made him freeze, footsteps approaching from behind. He turned slowly, his hand moving toward the tool he carried for protection. But the person who emerged from the shadows was not threatening. He was young, maybe 25, with scarred hands and tired eyes. He wore the clothes of a factory worker, but he moved like a soldier. "You are the one bonded to the dragon," the man said. It was not a question. "I am Taeyang. I lead the resistance cell in this district." Daehyun relaxed slightly. Hana had told him about Taeyang. He was one of the few humans who had never taken the pills. He grew up in the underground, raised by parents who refused to surrender their humanity. The Confederation thought his family had died years ago, but they survived in the shadows, building a network of people who still remembered what freedom meant. "I am Daehyun," he replied. "Hana said you could help us, that you have been fighting the Confederation for years." Taeyang nodded slowly. "We have been fighting. But fighting and winning are different things. We sabotage their facilities. We spread information they want suppressed. We help people who want to stop taking the pills, but we are not strong enough to truly challenge them. Not yet." His eyes locked onto Daehyun's. "But you could change that. A dragon changes everything." Daehyun felt uncomfortable with the hope he heard in Taeyang's voice. "I am just a mechanic. I do not know anything about leading a rebellion. I barely understand what I am now." "You are more than a mechanic now," Taeyang said firmly. "You are bonded to a dragon. That makes you a symbol, whether you want to be or not. When people hear that a dragon has awakened, that a human has bonded with one of the old ones, they will remember. They will remember that we were not always slaves. They will remember that we used to reach for the stars. And then what?" Daehyun asked. "What happens when they remember?" "The Confederation has weapons we cannot fight. They have ships that can burn entire cities. They have technology that makes our best efforts look like children playing with sticks." Taeyang smiled, but it was a sad smile. "That is what they want you to believe. But the truth is different. The Confederation is not as strong as they pretend. They control Earth through fear and manipulation, not through force. If people stopped being afraid, if people started to resist, their entire system would collapse. They know this. That is why they try so hard to keep everyone docile." "He is right," Hana's voice whispered in Daehyun's mind. "The Confederation rules through deception. Their actual military presence on Earth is smaller than most people realize. They rely on human collaborators to do most of the work. If those collaborators realized they were being used, if they turned against their masters, the Confederation would have to retreat." Taeyang continued. "We have been gathering resources for years. Old weapons, pre-invasion technology, people who remember how to use them. What we need is a spark, something to inspire people to stand up, to fight back. You and your dragon could be that spark." Daehyun thought about Jiwoo, about the tears in her eyes when she let him go, about the way she had defied orders from the Confederation, even though it could have cost her everything. If someone as loyal as Jiwoo could break free from the programming, maybe others could too. Maybe there was hope after all. "What would you have me do?" he asked finally. "Train," Taeyang said simply. "Learn to use the bond. Learn to access the knowledge Hana carries. The dragons were partners to humanity's greatest warriors, greatest thinkers, greatest leaders. That knowledge is inside her. Inside you now, master it. Become what you are meant to be, and when you are ready, we will strike. We will hit them so hard they cannot ignore us. We will show Earth that resistance is possible. Over the following weeks, Dae-hyun threw himself into training. Every night he connected with Hana, diving deeper into the bond. She showed him battles fought on worlds he could not pronounce. She taught him strategy from generals who had been dust for millennia. She gave him access to technology that should not exist. Blueprints for devices that could level the playing field against the Confederation's superior weapons. But more than knowledge, she gave him confidence. For the first time in his life, Dae-hyun felt like he mattered, like he was part of something larger than himself. The bond with Hana was not just power. It was purpose. It was belonging. It was everything the Confederation had tried to take away from humanity. One night, as they trained in an abandoned building on the edge of the city, Ji-woo appeared. She was not wearing her uniform. She looked tired, haunted, but there was determination in her eyes that Dae-hyun had never seen before. "I stopped taking the pills," she said without preamble, 3 days ago. "I started remembering things, feeling things. It hurts. Everything hurts. But I cannot go back to being numb. I cannot keep pretending." Dae-hyun moved toward her, but she held up a hand. "I am not here for comfort. I am here because the Confederation knows about you. They know about the dragon. They are planning something big. An operation to capture or kill you both. I came to warn you. You need to run. You need to hide somewhere they cannot find you." Hana materialized beside Dae-hyun, her light filling the room. "We cannot run forever. Eventually we will have to fight. Perhaps it is better to fight now on our terms than to wait for them to corner us." Ji-woo stared at Hana, wonder and fear mixing in her expression. "You are really one of them. One of the old ones. I thought you were all dead. We are harder to kill than they hoped," Hana replied gently. "And we are not the only ones awakening. Across your world, other dragons are stirring, calling out for partners. The time of hiding is ending. The time of change is beginning." Ji-woo looked at Dae-hyun. "If you are going to fight, you will need help. I know things. Patrol routes, security codes, weaknesses in their systems. I have been an enforcement officer for 5 years. I know how they think, how they operate. Let me help you." Dae-hyun felt something shift inside him. This was it, the moment where everything changed. Ji-woo was offering more than information. She was offering her loyalty, her life. And he knew that accepting meant there was no going back. For any of them, he reached out and took her hand. "Welcome to the Resistance. Together we are going to take back our world." Tae-yang emerged from the shadows where he had been watching the entire exchange. His expression was satisfied. "Good. We have a dragon. We have someone who knows the enemy. We have the will to fight. Now we just need a plan, and I think I know exactly where we should strike first." As the four of them gathered around a makeshift table, planning their first real act of rebellion, Dae-hyun felt something he had not felt in years. He felt alive, truly alive. The bond with Hana had awakened something in him, something the pills had tried to bury. And now, surrounded by others who refused to give up, he finally understood what Hana meant when she called him brave. Bravery was not the absence of fear. It was choosing to fight anyway, choosing to hope anyway, choosing to be human anyway, no matter the cost. The transmission tower rose into the night sky like a metal finger pointing at the stars. It was the tallest structure in Seonghwa City, broadcasting the Confederation's propaganda to every screen, every device, every mind that would listen. According to Tae-yang's intelligence, it was also one of the most heavily guarded facilities in the region, which made it the perfect target. Dae-hyun crouched on a rooftop 3 blocks away, watching the tower through enhanced vision that Hana provided. He could see the guards patrolling the perimeter. He could count the security cameras. He could even detect the energy signatures of the automated defense systems. 2 months ago, he would not have believed any of this was possible. Now it felt natural, like breathing. "Are you ready?" Hana asked inside his mind. Her presence was constant now, a warm glow in the back of his consciousness. He could not imagine being without her anymore. The bond had become as essential as his heartbeat. "As ready as I will ever be," he replied silently. "What if this does not work? What if nobody cares?" "They will care," Hana assured him. Trust me, trust yourself. You were made for this moment. His earpiece crackled. Jiwoo's voice came through calm and professional. All units in position. Security rotation will change in 3 minutes. That is our window. Tae-young's voice followed. Teams are ready to move. Once you are inside, we will create diversions at the eastern and western checkpoints. That should draw most of the response force away from your position. Daehyun took a deep breath. In 2 months, their small group of 4 had grown. Word spread quietly through the underground. People who had stopped taking the pills. People who remembered what it meant to be free. People who were tired of living as prisoners in their own world. Now they had nearly 50 fighters, all willing to risk everything for a chance at liberation. Time, Jiwoo said. Move now, Daehyun ran, not like a normal human, but with speed and grace that the bond provided. He leaped from rooftop to rooftop, covering distances that should have been impossible. Behind him, or perhaps inside him, Hana flew, her energy form invisible to normal sight but blazing like a sun to those who knew how to look. He reached the tower's outer wall and placed his hand against it. Through the bond, he could feel the building's systems. The electronic locks, the power conduits, the security networks. It was like touching a living thing, and he knew exactly where to hurt it. The locks clicked open. Alarms should have triggered, but Daehyun had already disabled them through a back door in the system that Hana helped him find. He slipped inside and began climbing the maintenance stairs. 30 floors. He had to reach the broadcast center at the top. Explosions echoed in the distance. The diversions had begun. Daehyun heard shouting, boots pounding on metal floors, orders being screamed into radios, but nobody was coming his way yet. The plan was working. He reached the 20th floor when he heard them. Heavy footsteps above. A security team that had not been pulled away. There was no way past without being seen. Daehyun pressed himself into a corner and waited, trying to think of a solution. Let me help, Hana said. Trust me. She flowed out of him, becoming visible for just a moment. A dragon made of golden light, small enough to fit in the stairwell but no less magnificent. The guards saw her and froze, their weapons falling from numb fingers. Hana did not attack them. She simply looked at them, and in that look was a question. A choice. Remember who you were. Remember what you could be. One guard dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face. The others backed away slowly, not in fear but in awe. They let Daehyun pass without a word. He did not know if they would report what they saw, but somehow he did not think they would. Something had changed in them. Something had awakened. The broadcast center was protected by a biometric lock. Daehyun placed his hand on it and channeled Hana's power through his palm. The lock did not just open. It melted. Its circuits overloading from energy they were never designed to handle. He pushed through the door and found himself in a room full of screens and equipment. One technician sat at a console, staring at him with wide eyes. Daehyun expected resistance, expected the man to sound an alarm. Instead, the technician simply stood and walked away, leaving him alone with the most powerful communication system on the planet. He sat down at the controls and began working. This was what he was good at. Machines, systems, making things work. Through the bond, Hana fed him knowledge of the Confederation's broadcast protocols. Within minutes, he had control. Within minutes, he could speak to the entire world. His face appeared on every screen in the city, in the country, across the planet. Millions of people looked up from their daily routines and saw a mechanic staring back at them. Behind him, Hana manifested in her full glory, her light filling the broadcast center like the sun itself had descended to Earth. Daehyun spoke. His voice was not loud, but it carried the weight of truth. My name is Daehyun. I am a mechanic from Seonghwa City. I am also bonded to a dragon. The Confederation told you that dragons were weapons, that they were dangerous, that anyone who found one had to turn it in or die. They lied. He held up his hand and Hana's light flowed around it like liquid gold. Dragons are not weapons. They are partners, companions, friends. They bonded with humans during our greatest age, when we reached for the stars and built wonders that rivaled anything in the galaxy. The Confederation hunted them because they feared what humanity could become with dragons at our side. Behind him, he heard doors opening. Security forces were coming. But he kept talking because every second mattered. Every word mattered. They told you that you surrendered, that you lost the war. But that is not what happened. Your leaders betrayed you. They gave up your freedom in exchange for personal power. They helped the Confederation suppress the truth. They forced you to take pills that killed your emotions, your dreams, your very humanity. Hana's voice joined his, amplified by the bond, speaking through him and with him. You were not meant to be slaves. You were meant to explore, to create, to love, to fight, to be gloriously, magnificently human. That is what they fear. Not your weapons, not your technology, your spirit. The thing inside you that refuses to die no matter how hard they try to kill it. The doors burst open. Confederation soldiers poured in, weapons raised. But Daehyun did not stop. I am proof that the dragons are awakening. I am proof that the bond still exists. I am proof that humanity has not forgotten how to dream. And I am not alone. Across this world, others are waking up. Others are remembering. Others are ready to fight. The lead soldier aimed at Daehyun's head. But before he could fire, something incredible happened. The soldier's hands began to shake. Tears ran down his face. He lowered his weapon and spoke, his voice broken with emotion. I remember. I remember what we were, what we could be. One by one, the other soldiers lowered their weapons. Some were crying. Some were laughing. Some simply stood there, feeling real emotions for the first time in years. The pills could suppress humanity, but they could not erase it. And Daehyun's words, amplified by Hana's presence, had cut through the suppression like a knife through paper. Daehyun stood and looked at them. At the soldiers who were supposed to kill him. At the people watching on screens across the planet. At a world that had forgotten what freedom meant. Join us, he said simply. Remember who you are. Remember what you can be. Stand up, fight back, take back your world. The Confederation cannot stop all of us, not if we stand together. The transmission cut off. Confederation Command had finally managed to kill the signal. But it was too late. The message had been sent. The truth had been spoken. And across HFY City, across the entire planet, people were waking up. Riots began within the hour. Not violent riots, but something more powerful. People simply stopped obeying. Stopped taking their pills. Stopped pretending they did not care. The Confederation's carefully constructed system of control began to crumble, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. Jiwoo's voice came through Daehyun's earpiece, breathless with excitement. You did it. You actually did it. The entire city is going crazy. People are flooding the streets. The enforcement officers are refusing orders. Some of them are joining the crowds. This is it. This is the beginning of the end for them. Daehyun looked at the soldiers who had come to capture him. They were smiling now, really smiling, the kind of smile that came from the soul. One of them stepped forward and offered his hand. My name is Kyung-ho. I have been an enforcement soldier for 7 years. I have done terrible things in the name of the Confederation, but no more. If you will have me, I want to join your fight. Daehyun took his hand. Welcome to the resistance. Welcome home. 6 months had passed since the broadcast. 6 months since a simple mechanic stood before the world and told the truth. 6 months since everything changed. Daehyun stood on the roof of what used to be the Confederation's regional headquarters in HFY City. Now it flew a different flag, a simple design that the resistance had created together. A dragon rising from flames, wings spread wide, reaching for the stars. It was not fancy, but it meant something. It meant hope. The city below had transformed. People walked the streets without fear now. They laughed, they argued, they fell in love, they got angry, they dreamed. All the things the Confederation had tried to steal from them. The pill factories had been shut down within a week of the broadcast. Nobody wanted to be numb anymore. Even if emotions hurt, even if they were messy and complicated, they were real. And humans needed real more than they needed safe. Behind him, Hana materialized in her human form. She looked the same as the day she awakened, beautiful and terrible and kind. But their bond had deepened over the months. Now they could share thoughts without even trying, could fight as one being instead of two, could understand each other in ways that went beyond words. The others will be here soon, she said softly. Are you ready for the council meeting? Daehyun smiled. He still found it strange that people called him a leader now. He was just a mechanic who made a choice. But Taeyang insisted that symbols mattered, that people needed someone to follow, someone to believe in, So Daehyun did his best even though he felt like a fraud most days. As ready as I will ever be, he replied. How many confirmed dragons now? 17 across the planet. 17 that have awakened and bonded with humans brave enough to accept them. More are stirring. More are being found. The Confederation tried to hide us, tried to destroy us, but we are resilient. We are patient. And now, our time has come again. 17 dragon-bonded humans. It did not sound like much against an entire galactic confederation, but each bonded pair was worth 100 normal soldiers. They could interface with technology instantly, could think and react faster than any computer, could inspire others simply by existing. 17 was enough to change the balance, enough to make the Confederation afraid. The door opened behind them. Jiwoo entered first, wearing the uniform she had designed herself. Not the oppressive black of enforcement officers, but simple blue that represented the sky, freedom, possibility. She commanded the ground forces, now turning former soldiers and civilians into an army that fought with purpose instead of fear. Taeyang followed, carrying data tablets and reports. He looked tired. He was always tired these days. Running a global resistance took more energy than any one person should have to give. But he never complained, never stopped working, never stopped believing that they could win. Kyung-ho came in last. The former enforcement soldier who had been sent to capture Daehyun and instead joined the resistance. He led the intelligence division now, using his knowledge of Confederation systems to stay one step ahead of their enemies. His face was scarred from a raid 2 months ago, but he wore the scars proudly. They were proof that he had chosen the right side. Jiwoo spoke first. We have reports from all major cities. The Confederation is pulling back. Not everywhere, but their presence is shrinking. They are consolidating forces around their orbital stations and key facilities. They know they are losing control of the planet. Good, Taeyang said. That means the pressure is working. Every facility we take, every collaborator who switches sides, every person who stops being afraid, it all adds up. They cannot fight an entire planet, not when that planet has remembered how to fight back. Kyung-ho pulled up a holographic display. But we should not get overconfident. My sources indicate they are calling for reinforcements. Real military forces, not the occupation troops they have been using. If they bring in battleships, if they decide to destroy population centers as examples, we cannot stop them. Not yet. The room fell silent. They all knew this moment would come. The Confederation had been caught off guard by the uprising, but they would not stay caught forever. Eventually, they would respond with overwhelming force. The question was whether humanity would be ready when they did. Daehyun looked at each of them in turn, his friends, his family, the people who had taken a broken world and started building it back into something worth living in. Then we need to be ready. We need to finish reclaiming the orbital platforms. We need to get the old shipyards operational. We need to build a fleet. Hana's light flared brighter. The dragons can help with that. The knowledge we carry includes shipbuilding techniques your people have not used in decades. Combined with your natural innovation, your refusal to accept limitations, you could have a functional defense fleet within a year. Maybe less. Jiwoo nodded. I can coordinate the workforce. We have millions of people who want to contribute, who want to do something meaningful. Give them a purpose, give them the tools, and they will move mountains. Taeyang was already making notes. I will reach out to the other bonded pairs, see if they can help with the technical aspects. And we need to accelerate the search for more dragons. Every new bond makes us stronger. Over the following months, Earth transformed from a conquered world into a fortress. The shipyards that had been silent for 20 years roared back to life. People who had never held a welding torch learned to build starships. Engineers who had forgotten their training remembered. Teachers who had been forced to teach Confederation propaganda instead taught mathematics and physics, and the glory of reaching for impossible things. Daehyun spent his days flying with Hana, coordinating strikes against remaining Confederation facilities. They hit supply depots, communications arrays, detention centers where humans who had resisted too early were being held. Each victory was small, but they added up. Each freed prisoner joined the cause. Each captured facility gave them more resources. And slowly, impossibly, they began to win. Not completely, not yet, but enough to matter. Enough to show the galaxy that humans were not the broken species the Confederation claimed. That given a chance, given hope, humans could achieve anything. One evening, as the sun set over Xianghua City, Daehyun and Hana flew together above the clouds. Below them, lights were coming on across the city. Not the cold, regulated lights of the occupation, but warm lights from homes where families gathered, where friends laughed, where people lived instead of merely existing. Do you regret it? Hana asked suddenly. The choice you made? Your life was simple before. You were safe. Now you are hunted, famous, responsible for millions of people. Do you ever wish you had just reported me and gone back to fixing ships? Daehyun thought about it. Really thought about it. Then he smiled. Not for a second. Before, I was alive but not living. I was breathing but not feeling. I had a life, but it was not mine. Now I have purpose. I have friends. I have you. I have a future worth fighting for. How could I ever regret that? Hana's light pulsed warmly. That is why dragons bond with humans. That is why we will always choose you, no matter how many times the powerful try to suppress you. Because you are capable of this, of choosing hope over safety, of choosing freedom over comfort, of choosing to be magnificently, beautifully, impossibly human. They descended back toward the headquarters where Jiwoo and Taiyang were waiting with the latest reports, where Kyung-ho was analyzing Confederation fleet movements, where hundreds of people were working around the clock to build something new, something better, something free. The war was not over. The Confederation would return. They would bring their battleships and their weapons, and their absolute certainty that they knew what was best for the galaxy. But they would find something they did not expect. They would find humans who remembered what they were capable of. Humans bonded with dragons. Humans who refused to kneel. And in the stories that would be told for generations to come, people would remember how it started. How a simple mechanic found a dragon in a broken ship. How he chose to hide her instead of reporting her. How that one act of defiance sparked a revolution that freed a world. They would call him a criminal for breaking the law. They would call him a legend for saving his people. And Daehyun, standing with his friends as the stars came out above them, thought that maybe both things could be true at once. Maybe the best legend started with someone who was willing to break unjust rules. Someone who dared to dream. Someone who refused to give up being human no matter the cost. The future was uncertain. The battles ahead would be hard. Some of them might not survive. But for the first time in 20 years, Earth had hope. And hope, Daehyun had learned, was the most powerful weapon in the universe.